This is what the app would look like. You get a bunch of information about the car, the temperature, how much it's currently pulling, your state of charge. Like there's a bunch of information you can gain from this, and with a big green button to start preheating the battery essentially.
Okay, welcome back to the VW ID Talk podcast. We are your hosts, Wes and Jan. Remember, you can catch us on your favorite streaming platforms, Spotify, Overdrive, or Apple Music, and of course, here on YouTube for a visual experience. And today, Jan, what are we talking about?
Today, we have a special guest, Fredrik. We'd like to think about him as the car battery preheating inventor. Yes, he has a solution to preheat the ID battery on MEB cars with a relatively seemingly like simple solution, which of course was not easy to build, but he'll tell us all about it. So Fredrik, welcome. Oh, that's the solution. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So welcome and tell us what you've built. Yeah, pleasure.
Sure. So this is my first EV. Previously, I had a hybrid, and I usually in the winter months in Sweden we go to the north of Sweden for skiing. And when like researching cars and EVs, what to buy, and so on, like one of the major drawbacks, like the major drawback of an ID.4 is the battery preconditioning and how terrible it is in charging in winter time. So that's kind of what kicked me off in I need to fix this. So I got the EV back in early March. So I still haven't experienced my first winter, but I was thinking like for the winter to come, I want to be ready to precondition my battery for faster DC fast charging. So essentially what I built is a little device that connects to your car, and it tells the car to please preheat right now, and the car's happy to do so.
So this isn't some weird heater element that people are going to have to install in their cars themselves. You're using the car's built-in preheating functionality and their built-in software algorithms, and you've just figured out how to activate it in a really elegant way.
So the Volkswagen cars come with a battery heater, and they've always come with a battery heater because you need to have it for like if you want to have a car in freezing temperatures, it's gonna have to be able to heat up the battery from like sub-zero, like freezing temperatures, up to like a working condition. And so every EV, I think, needs to have essentially a heater. Modern EVs.
Makes sense.
So every model of Volkswagen MEB cars have had a heater installed.
Okay. And this isn't just for better DC fast charging, right? This is also for if you wanted to run at optimal temperatures from home, you could start this. Now, the car will heat us up to 0 centigrade when it starts on its own. It'll do that for charging. But if you wanted to heat it to a more optimal temperature, you could use this yourself.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. And I think that is my intention to do when going on a winter trip. Like I would probably precondition the battery at home before I start. So I know like the battery is already 30 degrees when I leave home, and it's like sub-zero, like, 20 Fahrenheit outside, and I can just go and my battery is 30 degrees already. It will probably cool down a couple of like degrees while I drive and while I reach the fast charger, but it's probably going to be way higher than it would be otherwise. Like the battery is pretty big and has a high density, so it keeps a lot of energy and a lot of like it keeps the temperature really well.
Yeah. So the purpose of this is not just for faster. It allows you to DC charge a lot faster if you go to a fast charger, but it also is going to really protect your battery's longevity by having it be at a more optimal temperature when it's pulling in that much energy all at once.
Yeah, I wouldn't heat it. I wouldn't use it for home charging. Like the car will handle heating the battery to a safe temperature. Yeah, okay. And so like it's not really needed for home charging. It's more like if you know that you're gonna go far, and you know that it's cold outside, you can preheat the battery before you go, and thus have a warm battery as you travel, and then get to the DC fast charger, and then get a higher like charging speed.
That makes sense. And just out of curiosity, your in Sweden, so you have really tough winters. So you mentioned minus 20 degrees of Celsius. Is that the usual temperature during winter, or even lower?
I would say it's the worst case for the Stockholm area. If you go further north, it could be a bit colder. I would say around the time I usually go skiing, it's usually somewhere between minus 10 and 0.
And
Celsius.
Zero, I see. Celsius. So we are talking somewhere between like 0 Fahrenheit to 15 Fahrenheit, roughly. Okay.
I love the way you did this with I would kind of tongue in cheek describe this as a man in the middle attack. You have the harness that you held up. Basically, you're going in between the BCM controller so that you can tap into the CAN bus, right? So the wires, the green connector that you pulled out, you're actually pulling out the CAN bus wires, and you've got a little device that's kind of snooping on the CAN bus and just telling the car, you can see that connector there. That's great. And you're telling the car to use its own functionality to go ahead and heat the battery. So I guess what inspired you to think that this was possible?
Right.
And how'd you figure it out?
Sure. I prepared some of my earlier prototypes as well. Like this is the very first one I built. It's another harness for another. Like this is a harness that connects into the heater of the car.
Yeah, okay.
And so I investigated and reverse engineered the protocol that the battery management computer, when it talks to the heater and tells it to turn on and heat the battery.
Okay.
I figured out how it does it, and I man in the middle that connector as well. And figured out how to do that. Unfortunately, even if the heater starts heating, even like when the management computer hasn't asked the heater to start heating, it won't turn on the coolant pumps, and it won't trigger the necessary switches in the cooling circuits to make it work. So this was a failed attempt. Like I could make the heater heat the coolant, but I couldn't make the management computer actually start pumping through the coolant through the battery and everything.
Gotcha.
So this was my initial attempt. That's when I kind of left that, and I started thinking about like, can I kind of trick the management computer to think that the battery is too cold, like to think that the battery is like below freezing, and therefore start heating it up because it thinks it's really cold. But that seemed very invasive, and like I don't want to open up, like, detach the battery pack and start messing around with the temperature probes inside and stuff. Like it gets very, like, it's a car, I need it too. So like it's you don't want to go too far. So that's when I started like doing the solution with to connect directly to the battery management computer.
Well, it's a much more elegant.
And the reason
go ahead.
Yeah, it is really elegant. So like the reason I thought it would work is that there is this app called OBD11, which I guess many of you know about. It allows you to tweak your car for a bunch of things. And one of the things that they used to have, and maybe still have, I don't know, was the functionality to precondition the battery. But you needed to pop your hood open, and it would only allow you to do like so from like a certain range from when you last popped your hood open. So like it was a very janky solution. Like if you want to start preconditioning your battery while you're driving, you don't want to pop your hood because that's going to be really dangerous, right? So that's when I realized like the battery management computer knows how to heat it. I just need to get past the gateway that kind of shuts down that communication when the hood is not opened up, right? So that's when I plug in after the gateway. So like the gateway can't stop me anymore. And so I use the same method that OBD11 uses to start triggering the preconditioning, essentially, but without the drawbacks of like popping your hood.
It's really strange that if you can trigger it with OBD11, why VW has not included this functionality, right? It's almost shocking because potentially it could be a few lines of code. And yet there is Fredrik, who comes up with a great solution that is plug and play. So you don't need to cut any wires. You just plug it in, and you have a beautiful preheating button. Take us through the solution, like how it actually works, and how you figured out like what message even tell to the car.
Cars are very standardized. They talk the same protocol. It's called UDS, and one of the things that you can do over UDS is it has certain test functions. So one of the test functions that are available in the Volkswagen car, specifically on the battery management computer, is please test the battery heating circuit right now.
Okay.
So it's a standardized test message that you can send to the battery management system saying like, please test the preconditioning, or like the heater circuit right now, and it will happily do so.
I think we're smiling because of how brilliantly simple this is, right? I mean,
yeah,
it sounds like something Jan would have figured out, and I think we're both jealous that you. This is above my skill level, but I'm very jealous that you could do this. So the UDS is the testing protocol, and it goes over CAN bus usually in most cars. Okay.
No, I was just wondering, like, how did you find the message? Because did you snoop on the CAN bus? Because I tried it, and there is, especially on the convenience CAN bus, there are so many messages. It's like finding the needle in the haystack. So how did you find the right message?
Yeah, for sure. And this is also like a UDS testing message that wouldn't normally go on the CAN bus. Like it's only when you have testers present that this message would come over the CAN bus. Yeah, I can show you some early prototypes.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
That I had. It's kind of fun. Like I usually built it with the one that Wes, believe you have as well, the USB.
Yeah.
USB to CAN FD version 1.
Right.
Yeah, so this was my initial, like the thing that I used to talk to the car. So this plugged into this harness, and then this plugged into the car, and I could speak directly to the like the battery management computers essentially. So my second prototype is right here. I developed my own PCB with essentially the same chips as on the CAN FD, the little thing, but also with like a buck regulator that takes 12 volts and outputs 5 volts and 3.3 volts to power the entire thing. And then I put on a button with a little 3D printed mount that could mount in your car. So this would essentially, you could click it and it would start heating.
Awesome. So, and that you use the same kind of ST Microelectronics microcontroller chip on there. That's the little chip I see on yours, the same as this little chip right here. And and you just basically wrote a custom firmware for it. And I actually have a buck converter here that's a 12 volt, buck converter to hook up to a very similar button. So I had to, it looks like probably the same button from China. And
yeah, exactly. I have it somewhere around here.
I had them design that. I designed this logo. So it's
very cool.
It's really nice.
So Wes, you have done some interesting design on the logo. Can you show us?
Oh, yeah.
Because the button has like a battery preheating symbol.
Right. So you can see. Let me see if I can get the glare off. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
So I took the defog symbol that shows heat going into the windshield and combined that with the battery temperature symbol that shows the battery. Normally shows battery overheated. I actually made this logo in Microsoft Paint. Which is the extent
Microsoft
That's so nice. It's so cool looking.
Yeah. What is Microsoft Paint? No, I'm kidding.
No, right?
Blast from the
I know
past.
some people that work at Microsoft, and so we use that. But it was perfect for this because it's just a black logo on a white background, and I was able to edit out the temperature gauge and edit in the wavy lines. And so when I lit it up and I asked my daughter, hey, what does this thing do, you think? And she said, oh, it looks like you're putting heat into a battery. Yes, that's what it does.
So Fredrik, you now designed your own PCB with the chip and of course the software, and you have this beautiful solution. So if somebody from the community wants to get it, how would they get it?
So on my GitHub, there are instructions for making it happen with this thing, the initial solution, which still works fine. Like the one thing is that you need to plug it into a USB outlet, and you can use the USB outlet in your car. So like it is a functional solution. Okay. It's just like you need to have a USB cable laying around in your car that you plug into your mid console essentially. Okay. Yeah. or a power bank or whatever. Like you can plug it anywhere, but it needs power.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other things like you want to know if the heater is heating. You want to know if it's up to temperature already. Like there's a lot of states that you would like to communicate through this one flashing button interface. Like there's a lot of information that you could get. And so I started actually working on another solution.
Wow.
And so this is the version 2, the prototype. It's another custom PCB. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Yeah. Another custom PCB with a buck converter on it, taking 12 volts, but then plugging into a standard ESP32.
I was going to ask if that was ESP32 on the top.
Yeah. So it's a super tiny little package. And then I made a small little 3D printed case for it, which it can slide into. Let's see if I can get it. Beautiful. So it slides into this little case, like so. You can put the lid on, and it clicks together and looks like that.
Yeah, great.
And this goes on to your harness. Click like that. And this is what goes into your car. And now you have a phone app that you can communicate with this thing.
Oh, so it's connected through Bluetooth.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
So you don't need anything. You just plug this in, and it's always available on your phone.
And that's still a work in progress, right?
Yeah, that's work in progress. It is actually working really well. I've used it a bunch of times. I have some demo. I can perhaps. This is what the app would look like.
Okay.
Oh wow. So you
get a bunch of information about the car, the temperature, what the battery management computer thinks about the temperature in the battery, how much it's currently pulling, your state of charge. Like there's a bunch of information you can gain from this, and with a big green button to start preheating the battery essentially.
Wow. And I think that the only challenge that you don't know, and maybe because the computer doesn't know, is the charging potential. So would you see that? Because on the MEB4 cars, it says that at this temperature, it would charge up to and the kilowatt power. Is that something that the software 3 actually internally even like calculates or knows?
It has data coming out of it that claims to be that information. Okay. It's something that my app currently picks up and displays to you.
Okay.
I have like the data looks kind of weird, and I don't know why. So I'm still trying to figure out how the data actually works, like what it means. And for that, I need several more DC fast charging sessions to figure out.
I see.
What is the correlation between the data I get from the management computer versus what I get when I actually plug into a charger.
Yeah.
Now, if I want to get your solution, yes, there's the V1 that I can follow your GitHub, and we'll link this down below. But this next solution, this V-Next solution with your app, like what is your plan to make it available?
I'm still contemplating if I can find some kind of partner to get this out to the masses, or if I should just open source it and have everyone build their own little thing and like order their own PCBs and everything. Or if I should just sell the PCBs and then let people, assemble them themselves. I'm still trying to figure that out.
So the big problem with this is you have your code all open source and available, which is great. And most people, even people without a super electronics background, could download that code like I did and put it onto the board, which I misplaced. Well, here it is. And so you can load the software into this board. But the problem is you still need access to this harness, and you have to be able to cut into it and wire it into this board. And furthermore, this version you see does not have, I've got a connector on one end and a bunch of wires on the other. I was not able to buy the completed harness that they so helpfully made for you. I had to buy this, and I have to crimp all the individual pins on there. So this is beyond the skill, I'd say, of most regular folks, and maybe even most software folks. I'm going to put some of these together for sale, at least for the US people, where I've crimped this together and wired the little USB to CAN into the middle of it. But but the software thing, even for your version 2 solution, you need this to plug in. So
it's funny, the harness is really expensive. Like the harness is twice or 3 times the price of all the electronics and the box.
Yeah.
It was
crazy. Like 40 or 50 euro or something, right? I mean,
I think I got it for 30.
Okay.
And then for the installation, like where physically in the car is this connector? Is it on the AC module behind your glove box, or where is this going?
It's behind your glove box. You can actually get to it and plug it in without removing a single screw. It connects into the gateway.
Oh, directly into the gateway, module 19. Okay, so that's very accessible behind the glove box. Yeah, that's like the metal silver module. That there are 3 modules behind, and that's the one I think completely on the right. Yep.
Yeah, it's
cool.
a silvery, shiny thing.
It should be the only one that connector fits into.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So we love your solution. So what is the next step? If I want to get it,
like I said, I need to figure out if and how I can get this out to everyone that wants it in a legal manner. But for now, like the solution with the USB cable in the center console is still up on the GitHub and working and very reliable. So like I'd say this is a really, like if you want it this winter, probably go with this. I don't want to promise anything about other versions.
But the way you made that work is you plug the USB cable in and it turns on and it heats up. Exactly. And just to be sure, this is safe. This is not something that heats and heats and heats and you have to remember to unplug it. It just tells the car to get the battery up to testing temperature, and when it gets up to that temperature, it turns off.
Yeah, so it definitely throttles the heater after a while automatically, and there's nothing I can do about that. Like I can't force it to heat even more. Like it has built-in fail-safes for how much it is allowed to heat the coolant.
Which is a good thing, right? So that's
definitely.
Exactly. Cool. All right. So anything else, Wes, we wanted to chat about with Fredrik?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to ask if you have like how often you do this on cars. This is clearly not the first time you've done work on a car. So do you have an engineering background, or is this just a hobby for you? Do you work in engineering or went to school for engineering?
I do work in engineering, but not with cars or anything. I'm actually more in the cybersecurity field, doing a lot of like technical security work.
Yeah, which is why you're able to exploit vulnerabilities and
exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
So anything else you wanted to tell us?
No, I think I just really would like companies to focus on making things available on your local network on higher priority, like getting everything up into cloud services all the time and relying on them and their service and their, terms is awful. Like if I have a car, I want to be able to tell it to, get warm in the winter without going through their servers. Like that should be a no-brainer to me.
There are many, many people that feel the same way that you do. But the company they'll never go out of business. They'll never go away. So,
no.
It's when I'm president, that's one of the things we'll fix. If a company goes out of business, they'll have to release their source.
So that sounds great. Wes for president. For
Fredrik, sure. This was awesome talking to you. Great solution. So the call to action is check Fredrik's GitHub, because we are recording in September 2025. Then by the time when you see this, maybe there is a progress that Fredrik will be publishing on his GitHub. So check out the GitHub page. Please like and subscribe. We are a community of volunteers, so we don't have any sponsors. So the fact that you would subscribe helps us a ton. And stay tuned for the next episode, where we would drive our car to 0% and wonder what happened. So thank you so much. Bye.